Welcome to Nicole and Phil with Purpose. I'd like to welcome you back if you joined us for our first episode. And if you are here for the first time, I also want to welcome you. And I just want to reiterate that we are very glad you're here. And we believe that this podcast is applicable to everyone, to Phil and I, to each of you. And we believe wholeheartedly that each one of us were created by God with a distinct purpose, and that living with purpose is the only way to a life of joy and contentment. But we also see that often purpose is overlooked, downplayed, forgotten about, and disregarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we just we have a heart for you. We have a heart for those that Nicole just described. That people are struggling with those very things, and that's why we created this platform called Nicole and Phil with Purpose.
He wants to put himself first. Just no.
That includes.
Today we'll talk about humility. I'm just kidding. That's a future episode.
That includes a website, philwithpurpose.com. One day we'll get Nicole in there too, with different tools and resources for you, and some graphics and some guidelines, and this podcast links to this podcast as well. So glad we're on board together here, Nicole.
Absolutely. So we'd like to start off today's discussion with building on some of the points that we made last time. You'll find that we do that quite frequently. We believe that the way the human mind learns, the way that we as humans tend to be a little distracted, that reviewing key concepts again and again and again, I know for me that helps my learning, and I would guess that for many of you it's the same. So if you miss a point or don't quite understand where we're coming from, hold on, because likely we will return to concepts and apply them in different ways. And so last time we introduced a tool called the sweet spot of purpose. And so we're going to start tonight's discussion with pulling up this little diagram here,
Which is on the website.
which can also be found on the Phil with Purpose website. And I first want to talk a little bit about some of the words you might hear around discussions of purpose. You might hear the word calling. We have a calling in our lives. You might hear the word vocation, purpose, vocation, calling. All of those things really get at the heart of why are we here? What is your why? And so this sweet spot illustration here looks at three key components, and you can see each of them in a slightly different color of teal there. Would you call that teal?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
That really help us to zero in on that center spot. Phil, if you could pull that back out. That center spot, your purpose. And so first of all, I want to kind of point to this top circle, the darker circle. And this is the idea that each one of us was created in a unique, distinct way. You don't have to spend too much time looking at people, interacting with people, working with people, living with people to know that we are all different. We are all created with unique cognitive ways of thinking about the world, unique personalities, unique intelligence, unique temperament, and that is not by mistake, right? We believe that we were uniquely and purposely created in a distinct way that isn't random, that it fits with the work that we are called to. So we are all unique. Secondly, if you look at the left circle, we all have unique doors and opportunities that open in our lives. I am involved in certain place that I go to work, a certain family situation, a certain community, church, school, whatever the case is. That's distinct from Phil's. We used to work at the same school. We had that overlap, but Phil goes to work at a different place. He goes to a home to a different family. He has a different church than mine. Just all these things that are unique. And so we have unique creation, each of us created as individuals uniquely. We then have unique circumstances that make up our lives. And then finally, we have unique ways of seeing needs in the world around us. One person may be very passionate. I'm very passionate about creativity and about just understanding that we are all creative in our own unique ways, and that creativity is a key part of living a fulfilling life. What's something you're passionate about, Phil?
Oh, I would say I'm passionate about people, just relationships.
And I know you're also passionate about community politics
Yeah, yeah, right.
and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad that there are other people who are passionate about community politics,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not that I mean, I understand the importance of it, but it's not something I'm passionate about. Phil understands that creativity is unique, but he probably wouldn't, say that's one of his passion areas.
Mm-mm.
And so we all see needs uniquely around us. Um, and all of those things come together to help us define that purpose, that sweet spot. So if we think about the place where how you spend your time, your resources, your energy, um, and then think about who you are, uh, how you were created, what you're passionate about, and how you most effectively serve others. That is where that purpose is, right? It's where who we were created to be, where our opportunities and open doors in life, and where our passions meet. And so, purpose ought to be something that we are on fire about, because it's what we were created for. It's not random. If we see purpose as something random, that's going to give us a whole different view on the whole concept of purpose. If we believe we just fall into purpose, or if we believe that it's, just something that could apply equally to me and to the other person across the road, right? So I wanted to share a couple of questions, because one of the things I hear from my college students a lot is, I don't have a passion. I don't what sometimes it can be hard to define your passion. So I wanted to share a few questions that I think might help. And I'm a processor of writing, so I am constantly journaling, and I have probably 20 legal pads. Phil and I used to work together. He knows I have a lot of legal pads and Sharpies that I'm constantly taking notes. And so if that's you, I would encourage you, get some paper and write out your initial thoughts to one or more of these questions, because I think it can help you to really start to define, what is my sweet spot. And you can go to fillwithpurpose.com and take a look at this handout here, and spend some time this week before our next episode, and see if you can help to kind of articulate your purpose in words. So first of all, when do you feel most alive? When do you feel most animated, most you, most like you are in your element? Second, when you look at your life, both past and present, what are the experiences, the people, the activities that seem to really bring meaning to your life? Okay, that's two questions. Third, who inspires you? Who inspires you deeply? When you look at somebody in your life, or it could be somebody who you've just read about, what just lights your fire? What specifically are you drawn to in that person? It might be a mentor, it might be just somebody you look up to. Fourth, what do you think incessantly about? When you have a few minutes during the day, and you have some time just to sit back and daydream, what is it you think about? I think about things like, it sure would be great to start a retreat, a creative retreat for people who are, teachers and pastors, and just to kind of fill their tanks back up. I would venture to say Phil doesn't think about that. And I don't think about, I wonder what processes might come into play to make.
Which policy
Yeah.
could come, help
Yeah.
this situation.
Yeah,
whatever,
I can guarantee I don't think about that, right? And that's okay. Because it's not my passion, and the other is not Phil's. Um, what do you fill all of those notebooks and journals writing about, thinking about, daydreaming about, even at night? What do you dream about? And then finally, if money was no object, if you were independently wealthy, where would you spend your time? If you didn't have to go to work every single day for pay, how would you spend your time? And I think some of those questions can help you start to get at that question of purpose. And so once we have identified and understand what that purpose is, we know that if our life is not aligned with that purpose, it can cause us to feel very adrift, very hopeless, very lost, no direction. Some might say directionless, right? And so, how do we align our lives, every aspect of our lives, with that purpose? And so, I think Phil has some thoughts on that whole concept of direction.
And just before I get to that, right, those are great questions. Those are great questions to ask yourself. Questions that even as she was asking those, I'd love to process those myself for
Yeah,
me,
absolutely.
and then help me with what I have going on in my life. Just want to also point out that every single one of our the three key visuals that we have, the strategy, the circle congruence, the sweet spot, they all reflect and go back to exactly what Nicole was talking about with finding your purpose, and that's what this is all about. um, and make sure that you. I'm going to do a little advertisement here. Make sure that you check out our website, philwithpurpose.com, PHIL with purpose.com, and then also subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you click on once you click on subscribe and the little bell, and then it gives you 4 options, I think. If you click on all, you'll get all the notifications when it's time for our next podcast, which is 3 weeks from tonight. It's every the second and fourth Thursday of the month at 5:30. You can also watch this recorded as well or listen to it. You don't have to be watching this. So, yeah, to this directionlessness comment here.
And yes, that is a made up word.
It is a made up word. It's
Phil,
not in the dictionary. I made it up.
I
Now,
guess when you have a podcast, you can do
you
that
can
kind of
do
thing,
that.
right?
Yeah. So, if you're struggling with hopelessness or depression, you may have trouble with directionlessness. That's possible. It's also possible that in whole, you could be struggling with it in whole or in part. Nicole talked about the sweet spot, and that is just such a great visual and great. It summarizes things so well about finding your sweet spot as an individual. But when you find your sweet spot as an individual, you're going to benefit the corporate community that you live in so much more. Um, it's like she's alluding to, God has created with us with different talents and experiences and all that. And we talked about this last time too. And he's, given us all those different experiences to get to our sweet spot so that we could all have our own, find and meet our piece of the puzzle that we are a part of. So, it's all about what we're talking about here, that directionlessness that we have. And I just want to say directionlessness it's not for you. Have a strategy in life. Live with congruence, which we're going to get to in a second. And then find that sweet spot that Nicole just talked about. That will help you with this hopelessness and this directionlessness when you use these strategies.
Can I just add a quick
Yeah.
point, Phil, before you go on? This takes time. Don't expect overnight to, yes,
Yeah.
this is my purpose, right? These tools are designed to have you work with them over time. And if you're saying, like my college students do, I don't know what my passion is, it's okay. It's okay.
Good
Any
point.
little step that you make to raise your awareness and to really intentionally kind of wrestle with some of these ideas, you are going to be much, much better off in the long run as you take those little steps of faith and knowledge. So don't feel like you have to have it all figured out.
Yes. So we're going to get into the circle of congruence here. We see a picture. I'll make it big here for us too. We had talked about this last week. We're going to talk about it a whole lot, but I wanted to emphasize one piece again, or talk about one piece again, the eternity word up in the upper right-hand corner. And to me, that is so crucial that's on this this visual, because how we spend our time on this world determines how we spend eternity. I mean, it's that simple. Now, yeah, we can get into that more, but it's as that's as true as it can be. The Bible is very, very clear about that, and so I just wanted to emphasize that. But when we look at these different categories here. We have the me category, we have the family category, and the others category. So for those of you that this is your first time listening, what this visual is supposed to help us visualize is that we should find that balance between how much time we spend on me, how much time we spend with our family and on our family, resources, time, efforts, and then how much we should spend with others. And the truth is, some people spend a whole lot of time, right? Let's see if I can do that or no, it's not working right. And in the others category, there's some people that spend a ton of time in their family category, and there's some that spend a ton of time in the me category. Now, I want to be very clear about this. Everybody is different. There's some people that are more introverted and some that are more extroverted, and some people that focus more on their family than others, and that is an okay thing. I want to say that, but there's what we're talking about here is the people that spend more time in the me category than what's healthy, or more time in the family category than that's healthy, or or more time in the others category that is healthy. And so I was thinking about this during the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to pose the question to Nicole. Why would you say people spend, those that spend a lot of time in the me category or too much time in the me category? Why is that?
Yeah. I think there can be a lot of different reasons. One could be a self absorption, like a selfishness or even a narcissism. But it's not always that simple. Sometimes when people experience significant trauma, abuse, neglect, that kind of thing, it's almost like a self-protective response is to kind of, like a turtle pulls their head into a shell. People can do that to preserve themselves. Um, Sometimes it's because there could be a social anxiety piece to it, or there could be just a personality type. People who tend to be higher in introversion may just feel more comfortable in that kind of me space. It could be that somebody is coming off a significant hurt. Somebody who has recently, been divorced. Somebody who has been significantly hurt by another person may for a season kind of pull into oneself. So that just gives you a range of possibilities. So it's not always a selfish kind of pattern, but it could be something related to a hurt or a self-preservation kind of behavior.
So when Nicole's saying this, I'm sure this is what she's saying. It's not a one size fits all for
Right.
this strategy, right? Or
Right.
this
Right.
visual.
Right.
But how can somebody test with themselves? Would you say that they're spending too much time on me?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Um,
And I didn't warn you about this question ahead of time. I just thought of it just now.
One of the things that I think is so important to living a life of purpose is to have a circle of people who you can trust with anything. And we want to be careful about who we surround ourselves with and who we kind of let into that mentoring space. But I think to ask a trusted mentor, hey, what do you see in my life? Do you see me pulling away? Do you see me self protecting? And that can have obviously negative impact on relationships. So I think one strategy would be because obviously sometimes if you're in that space, you don't at that point have that awareness of yourself to be able to kind of self-diagnose that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to look to trusted others and listen to what people are saying can be a really helpful thing. It's a very vulnerable thing, but I think it can be a really healthy thing.
Mm-hmm. So how about when people spend too much time in the others category? Or I should say that I shouldn't say it that way. That's kind of a negative connotation to it. But when they spend a lot of time in the others category, what are reasons that people do that?
Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind right away when you say that is that sometimes a space of solitude can be very loud, if you know what I mean. Um, our world does a lot to distract us and pull us away from solitude. And sometimes when we sit with ourselves, we see things we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when we slow down enough, we realize that there's pain there that we weren't aware of. And so it can seem a lot, again, kind of a more self protective strategy to say, I'm going to pour myself all the time into these other activities and, not ever have that alone time where meditation often happens, where solitude and rest and kind of those more solitary activities happen. And our society doesn't do a great job of modeling what it is to be alone in a healthy way, right?
Mm-hmm.
We look to the example of Jesus, who was the best teacher we know,
Mm-hmm.
and who was often in crowds, meeting the needs of people through healing and through preaching and through mentoring. But he would also get away, right? He crossed the water to places where he was alone with his father.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great model that, yes, we are called, to love God and love others. And that means a lot of time spent in that circle of others. But that there's also a time and a place for being able to be alone and to have solitude and to be with our Savior. And that's how that personal relationship happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I want to reiterate that whole thing is some people are scared to be alone, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, they for whatever reason they don't like who they are.
Yep.
They don't like what they're living for, um, whatever that is, and that I feel for those people. I mean, that's what this is. That's what Nicole and Phil with Purpose is about. Is for those that are in the others category too often, and they feel scared to be spend time and energy on themselves.
Yeah.
And then also those that are in the me category or in the family category too often that are scared to spend time and invest in others. I want to be there for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the family piece, of course, I think everybody who I know, probably everybody who values family. But when we lose ourselves in our family without going into meeting the needs of others around our family or incorporating that solitude time, family, just like anything else, can become an idol. It can become an idol that is an unhealthy focus and obsession. And so, absolutely, love your children to the core of who you are. Absolutely, prioritize your marriage. It's the best gift you can give to your children.
Mm-hmm.
If you're single, prioritize those relationships with siblings and with parents and with maybe your mentees. But yeah, we can sacrifice too much and pretty soon realize that family has become an unhealthy idol. Is just the word
exactly
that comes
the word
to
that came
mind.
to mind for me too. Yeah. Yep, exactly. And there will be seasons in life where we're going to need to spend more time in the family circle, right? It's when we got 5 toddlers run, or five. Some people have 5 kids that are 8 or young. I mean, they're going to spend more time in the
Absolutely.
family category and less time in the me category. Maybe when they are the ones that need it most, honestly, sometimes.
Yeah.
But sacrificing the others, living for others, that's okay. Those little toddlers need you.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think when we think of, sometimes we use the word life balance, and we think that every day has to be like equal across these different circles.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like to think about congruence and balance more in terms of seasons. Like there may be seasons where you are more alone. There may be seasons where you are more family focused.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to overall look at the congruence across time.
Yeah, and these questions and these visuals that we're going through right now, I just think about for those that need this help. There's only Nicole and I here, but there's people around you that you can create small groups with. Ask, say, hey, I've been listening to this Nicole and Phil with Purpose, and I just really like the way that they frame things, or the way that the visuals are framing things. And hey, will you join me in this? Will you listen to the podcast with me? Will you look at these visuals and let's talk about our lives
Absolutely.
through the lens of, first of all, the Bible, but we think that these visuals align right up with the way that biblical worldview, and we encourage you to get together if it's just you and one other person or a small
Absolutely.
group of you. I see so much value in that.
And I would also say, if you don't know of somebody who would do that with you, drop us an email. Again, Nicole and philwithpurpose.com. Philwithpurpose.com. Sorry, there's no Nicole in there. I got to keep reminding myself I haven't made the website yet. But drop us an email. I would be more than willing to meet with you to get a small group off the ground. I'm sure Phil would do the same. I don't want to speak for him, but if you don't have a pastor or a friend or a community person who you could think you might be able to have this conversation with, we would love to help you in that way. So use this as a resource.
Yeah, and if there's somebody that you know that you think this it doesn't work for you, but this may work for somebody that you know, share it with them, and and see what this can do. All right, so I'm going to open up the strategy now here, Nicole. And then we hit on this a little bit last week, but maybe not as much as I kind of wish that we could have. So this is the third visual, and this is called the strategy. This is your battle plan for living out your purpose. This is intended to be a plan, where something you actually write down what your goals are. You could have one goal. I would advise you have more than one goal, but you could have 6 goals anywhere in between, because you can goal yourself out and you end up doing nobody any good.
Yeah.
But we encourage you to look at this strategy and just to talk about this a little bit more. These goals then have action steps usually that work with them. Like if you're going to set a goal in life, and sometimes it's a 1-week goal, sometimes it's a 6-month goal, sometimes it's a 10-year goal. So these action steps obviously need to lead towards that goal. So that's what this visual is for. There's a blank a copy of this right on the website, and as well as our email addresses, by the way, in the footer of our website. And then you can make this however you want. It doesn't have to be triangles like the Trivial Pursuit thing here. But if this works for you, that's great.
People know what Trivial Pursuit is these days. I'm
don't
not
know.
even sure if you can still buy that game. But
the
vintage
like
game, right?
And then you gotta have some core life principles that you'll see here. I'm going to make this a little bigger here. Those core life principles in the upper right hand corner, if you're watching, you got to have some non-negotiables in life. You got to have something. Okay, I'm not going to do this. This activity, whether it be here, like here's an example, like this guy named Connor. He wants to stay clean. He is going to stay clean because if he doesn't stay clean, it's going to impact his ability to raise his family right. It's going to impact his world, his ability to be able to fight human trafficking. Because that's this is a made up guy, but there's some that's a nice altruistic type outside of yourself focus and philanthropic, whatever. I'm not saying the right words.
Philanthropic activity.
Thank you.
Well, it's one of those circles, right? We talked about the circle of what are you passionate about? And for this Connor, it is, human trafficking is one of those passions that God has just knit him together to be concerned about.
Right, exactly. And then, if he doesn't stay loyal to his spouse, it's going to impact his ability to raise his family right. Excuse me. If he's not going to be knowing more about God, being in Scripture and being in prayer, it's going to also impact all these things. So this is just one example, but I would, if you're utilizing this, which I encourage you to do, start with your core life principles. What are the things that you don't want to compromise on? You cannot negotiate on. If you do, it's going to impact, good things that you want to do. And so this helps you fulfill. This helps you plan your strategy in life. And then by the way, I love the strategy definition is the art of war. Mm-hmm. And man, this is a battle. This life is a battle. It's not going to be easy, and it is not easy. I'm 44 years old, and I feel like I've actually had a pretty decent, but it's still been a battle. And there's some people that have had have much worse circumstances than I do, and we gotta be fighters.
And let me add, Phil, that it's not uncommon, and maybe even expect that as you get clearer and clearer on your purpose, your sense of being in a battle is likely to grow, right? Yeah. Because the enemy of our souls wants to destroy us. Mm-hmm. And if we're just living with directionlessness, he probably doesn't have to spend much time on us.
Mm-hmm.
But when we start to laser focus in on that purpose, we're going to be attacked, right? And
Because
we
we're a threat.
need, yes, we need to be ready for that. And so this really is getting clear on what your purpose is as an image bearer of the creator and as somebody knit together for a unique purpose. As we get clear on that purpose, we can expect to need a battle plan
Yeah,
even more.
absolutely, absolutely. And then I said this a little bit. I've already mentioned this, but I want to mention it again. This visual, as is the sweet spot, as is the circle of congruence, they are black and white. But there's so much gray to this. Okay, so these are just again guides for you to utilize. We feel like they're pretty good guides that are biblically sound. Um, but remember that there's so much more gray in this life. I know personally, I like things black and white. I like things the way they should be, the way they're supposed to be. Um, but I've learned the hard way in some instances, or just by watching other people who learn the hard way. There is so much gray in this life, and it's just part of it, and that's the way it is. And so we have to do our best to flex with the different with the visuals and just use them as they work for our lives.
And can I make another point if you want
Mm-hmm.
to pull that back in, Phil? Um, the core life principles, spend some time there. Don't feel like you have to slap something down
Yeah,
in 5 minutes. It may take you a couple weeks to pray through, think through, and really identify what are my core life principles. We don't spend a lot of time talking about that, or sometimes we assume that people have an understanding of what their principles are, but don't be afraid to really, really spend some good quality time just honing in on what that is. You don't have to have it right now.
absolutely. Okay, and then I just a couple other things too. If you create, let's say you get to the point where you create one of these the strategy, and you write this out, and you create your own strategy, and you just feel like you're still just not content. Um, there's a variety of possible reasons for that, but I just want to challenge you that perhaps the direction you choose that or you've chosen in life maybe doesn't line up with what the Bible says, and it's possible, or what God is telling you. So just that's to echo what Nicole was just saying. That is so key, is to start with
Mhm.
prayer and with reading the Bible and listening to the voice of God in what He's telling you with that. Okay, so I'm gonna. All right, a couple of things. I want to clarify something that I said last time when I talked about depression, anxiety, and praying through that, and how that doesn't always work, and it doesn't. It doesn't always. The Lord doesn't always answer that prayer in that way, and so prayer can overcome and heal. I want to be very clear about something. I don't think I was clear enough last time, so I just want to be emphasize so much. Prayer can overcome and heal someone. It can heal someone's anxiety. It can heal someone's depression. Um, it can heal anything. There's power in the name of Jesus. I mean, it can heal anything. Sometimes God chooses to leave thorns in our lives for reasons that we don't always know, and so that's what I was trying to get at, and hopefully I'm a little more clear on that today. These thorns sometimes can draw us closer to God. Actually,
Yeah.
he lets these it's back to the sweet spot. These experiences that we have. If we didn't have that thorn, if we didn't have that issue, like I told you, I have an issue with anxiety, particularly in crowded areas, um, and if I God's teaching me through those things. I don't always know what it is, and it's sometimes frustrating, and I just pray for victory over it sometimes. But my prayer has changed to more, Lord, just help me maintain, or help me to manage when I'm going through these struggles in my life.
Mhm.
And maybe someday He'll give me full victory over that, and that would be awesome, and I would be so glad. But maybe not. Maybe that's just the thorn I have. Paul talks about that in Scripture, that
Mm.
he had a thorn. I mean, there's different ideas about what the thorn was, and we don't need to get in all those, but maybe it's depression. I don't know. We don't really know for sure what that is. Um,
We're going to build on that idea in the future, on that kind of connection between suffering, pain, and growth, because oftentimes it is through, not that we, obviously, as humans, we typically want to avoid suffering. We don't like pain,
Mm-mm.
but God has promised that He redeems every situation. He may not do it immediately, and it may not be until He comes again to redeem the world. But we can be 100% assured that whatever our individual struggle is, or our relational struggle, or the pain or the suffering that we have walked through, that God is refining us, and He promises that we don't go through those things without meaning and without eventual victory. And again, I think when we have a clear sense of purpose, it empowers us to walk through those times where God doesn't seem to be answering prayer. He may not even feel like He's present. Um, a laser focused sense of purpose can help sustain us through those times.
Mm-hmm. So who is a Phil and Nicole and Phil with purpose speaking to? And I just want to say we're speaking to you, the 14-year-old young lady that is struggling with depression, struggling with anxiety, looking at the other girls around them, looking at the boys and seeing, why aren't they noticing me? Um, why am I not getting the attention that I want, or that I'm looking for? We're talking to you. We're talking to the 24-year-old young man that just graduated from college, that just um, he just got married, he just bought his first house, got his first dog, and that's actually me. That's what I'm talking about. When I was 24, it's about the only time I ever went through depression in my life. Maybe 3 months worth of depression. I don't struggle with depression, um, but I did for about 3 months then. And we're talking to you. You need to you probably feel a little bit of directionlessness. You need a plan. You need a battle. You need a strategy. You need a battle plan. We're talking to the 44-year-old mother that her kids just are leaving the house. They're going to college. The kids aren't dependent upon you as much as they used to be, and you're starting to kind of wander and feel, okay, what's next for me? Create a strategy. Find that sweet spot. Find that congruence in your life. You used to spend so much time in the family circle, and they still need you. You still need to do that. But maybe now you got a little more time for me, and you got a little more time for others, and other people need you. And so, how can with your strategy, as you build your strategy, how can you impact this world within your purpose for other people? So, and we're talking to anybody that's willing to listen, that feels like this could work for you, that this could have an impact in your life. The point is, it's not just for a certain sect or sex or gender or field, people that work in a certain field. No, this is for the 8 to 88, the people that are somebody that just retired. I mean, how many people retire at 65 or whatever, and they just feel they're floundering. They don't know what to do. This is for you.
Yeah. Society often questions the value of us as we age, right? And so this can certainly help any age. I appreciate what you're saying, Phil. Any age, any circumstance, just help to refine. Why am I here? As long as you have breath, God has a purpose for you that He is wanting to just manifest within you, and to bring you the greatest contentment and joy and fulfillment that you would ever experience.
Yes. So, directionlessness, it's not for you. Find your sweet spot, have a strategy, and live with congruence. So, again, make sure you check out the website and you subscribe on the YouTube video. And click on the subscribe button and then the little all button, all notifications, and you'll get the notifications. This is live, right? Well, we're sitting here live, obviously, right now, but by the time you're listening to it, it's probably recorded. You can listen to it whenever you want to. You don't have to be watching us. You can hook it up to your, as you're driving down the road, and just listen to the audio. Please don't watch while you're driving. And hopefully, we want to, like I said, we want to impact your lives. We are looking for someone specifically who can be our guest in 3 weeks from today. Who's somebody who's struggling with this directionlessness. If that's you and you're feeling this prompting to talk with us, we would love to talk with you. Whether it's in person, you could sit right here in this podcast room with us, and we could open up the third camera and we could talk with you. If you don't like that idea, it can be by phone. We have a way you can call in, or even if you just want to share your story via email, you can do that, and we can read it, and then we can talk through what you share with us, and Nicole and I can talk through that. You can even have a cover name or a pseudonym, or what's the
Pseudonym, yeah.
yeah, a pseudonym, yeah, where you can you don't have to have your actual name where we publish that. Now, I don't know if we're techie enough to be able to make your voice sound different. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to ask the tech people behind us, but
We would
maybe
do our best to make that happen.
right. But we want to protect you and your identity if you want that protected to the best of our ability. But we want to talk to you if you're feeling that tug to talk with us.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I would echo everything you said. I would also say that if you have gone through a period of living without direction and now are kind of on the other side of that, it could also be somebody who is reflecting back on what helped them. And so it could be a struggle that you're currently having with direction and lack of purpose, or it could have been something in the past that you feel that others would benefit from. We would love to hear from any and all of the above.
All right. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you. And remember, don't be directionlessness. Don't have directionlessness. All right. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.